What's good, everyone? This is Docs Outside the Box. Hey, I love saying this. Fusion of money, medicine, as well as pop culture.
Why do you always say as well as? Why can't you just use the word and? Try that. Go ahead.
You know, there's a song by Kendrick Lamar
Okay. You know what?
that says, don't mess with my vibe.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
No, it says, please don't kill my vibe.
Yeah, don't kill my vibe, please. It's a vibe. All
Okay.
right? We here. We back. We ready to go. Y'all, what's up? It's Dr. Nee, joined by...
Dr. Renee.
All right, that was corny. But listen, guys, this is going to be... We're going to get down into the nitty-gritty of some student loan issues that are going on. But also, this is going to be a quick one because we got our son upstairs with my mother who's staying with us. And you know how kids are. They're going to come looking for us really soon. So we trying to get this whole episode done before they come downstairs or he comes downstairs and interrupts this. So before we get started real quick, I want to give a quick shout out to Jamar. I'm not sure where you are in your training, if you are a med student, pre-med, if you are a resident, wherever you are. I just want to say shout out to you because Jamar went ahead and used the referral code for Factor.
Ooh.
So he used the referral code for Factor, which for me, I like. These are like pre-made meals that are very, very healthy and very tasty. They send it to you in a package and then you put it in your fridge and then you microwave it or you put it in your oven and it's ready to go. For me, that's been part of the micro habits of being an athlete, and part of being an athlete is eating better.
Yeah, and you use Factor mostly when you're on locums.
Yes. So actually, I only use Factor when I'm on locums. Right. And we can talk about the tax issues or the tax reasons why in a future episode. But y'all, there are some tax benefits as to using Factor on the road. And for me, I was just getting sick and tired of eating at restaurants and so forth. But Factor is not sponsoring this show. Y'all should. But Jamar.
But that referral code is.
Jamar, I'm really interested to see what you think about Factor. As soon as you get your meal, go ahead and text us. The number, as always, the number to text us is in the show notes, as well as the referral code for Factor is in the show notes also. Yo, I use this all the time, so that's where I'm gonna leave it at. I love it. It works great. Make it happen. So
cool, excellent.
You want me to order for the house too? I could tell.
I mean, I could use Factor sometimes when we make, kid dinner. Like, it would be great to be able to just make kid dinner and not have to be beholden to eating kid dinner.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, it's cool.
Well, people who are watching on YouTube, I want to say shout out to y'all. I appreciate y'all. Now, if you are looking on YouTube, you will see that there's a little bit of a difference in the lighting as well as the depth. Like we've been so we are working on some big things. Let's leave it to like that. Big things. Big things are coming to Docs Outside the Box, and we got some advice. I got some advice from a videographer who came by our studio yesterday and was kind of laughing. It was like, this is what y'all do? Why don't y'all change this up?
He wasn't laughing.
Y'all do this like little janky thing. So he gave us some quick tips, and we, I'm starting to use it.
We upped our game a little bit.
I did not know that the chairs were too close to the wall. The lens that we use, this is a kit lens for this camera. For those who want to know what we use, we're using a Sony ZV-E10. I like it because it's a really great 4K camera, but it's really easy to use. I don't know too much about photography and videography. And sometimes the cameras, there's so many buttons and there's so much different language and f-stop and aperture and ISO and all those things. I'm like, look, I just want to record the video and I just want to put it on YouTube. How do I do this? This camera helps us do that. And that's all I got to say about that. So shout out to y'all who are watching us on YouTube. I really appreciate everyone who continues to subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to us on YouTube, y'all.
Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on the podcast with your favorite podcast app. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
So listen, I've stalled enough.
Stalling.
Got it. So on the previous episode, I talked about one of the things I wanted to get into was this postcard I got. It says, important notice from your Attorney General about the Navient multi-state settlement. It's from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania because we used to live there.
Yes.
So it says you are eligible to receive a payment from the Navient multi-state AG Attorney General settlement. And really briefly, it says, on January 13th, 2022, our office announced a multi-state settlement with Navient to resolve allegations of unfair and deceptive student loan servicing practices, including steering federal loan borrowers into forbearances instead of counseling them into income-driven repayment. You qualify to receive a payment amount of approximately
How much?
Pew, pew, $500.
Oh, I'll take it though.
We $500 richer, but
listen.
Anyway, in a second, I'm going to talk about how much extra interest we paid as compensation for certain harm resulting.
Well, when you put it that way,
I'm still reading. Resulting from Navient's alleged forbearance steering practices. Right? There's more stuff in here, but yeah. So earlier this year, roughly around January, February, I don't know when. Anyway, it was announced that all of these attorney generals from different states, California, Pennsylvania, I can't remember if it was New Jersey, but anyway, one of the states that we lived in, they sued Navient because what they found out was, lo and behold, that story that I told everybody years ago of me going in between cases as a resident and saying, hey, can you guys stop calling me? Navient will call me. Can y'all stop calling me and harassing me? I don't have enough money. And they were like, well, you can do forbearance. What they should have been trying to get me into was an income-driven repayment plan.
Yeah.
So when they put you into forbearance, a lot of your interest, or not a lot, all of the interest still capitalizes, and it just brings in extra money for Navient or whoever else is your servicer. There's servicers all over, but the biggest one by far is Navient. And finally, someone brought up a complaint in 2009. And it wasn't until like 2016, maybe even a little bit before that, they started investigating these loans or these practices. And then eventually, boom, here we at. I'm getting $500. So I'm gonna let you talk about it. I'm gonna breathe for a little bit.
So much for that recording for training purposes.
Right. Well, hold on a second. Let me just get into this. So from the results of this settlement, $95 million in restitution in student loan borrowers, right? So that's part of the $500 that I'm getting. So $95 million in restitution, $1.7 billion with a B, $1.7 billion in private student loan debt cancellation. So $1.7 billion of those private loans completely off. The majority of those loans are people who went to for-profit schools or for-profit colleges, colleges that are defunct. That fell by the wayside, and a lot of people didn't get a chance to finish their degrees. And it's like, well, how's that my fault?
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
And basically, this all started, like I said, claims have started since 2009, where it says Navient has been telling people, particularly struggling student loan borrowers, that was me, right, that if, you know, that the option to get us to stop calling you, the option to get us to, you know, for you to stop being harassed is to go into forbearance. But what they really should have did, the other option they had was kind of counseling them into more affordable plans, one of them being the Income Driven Repayment Plan, right? And one of the, you know, for people who are really low income, I'd say one of the biggest possibilities or promises of this plan, the Income Driven Plan, is some of them who really couldn't afford these payments, some of them would get payments as low as $0 for a significant period of time. And that would count towards. So the whole point of income driven is this. You have a certain income and you go into this basically 20 to 25 year contract with the servicer. Right. And as long as you make consecutive payments, after 20 years, that's it. It's done. Yeah. But if they put you into forbearance,
then interest upon interest
upon interest upon interest, and you'll never get out of it. Right. Whereas if you go into IDR, like you may not be able to make payment for several months, maybe even a significant long period of time. Right. But that payment of $0 should count towards, or should count as a positive consecutive payment. Right. So it behooves Navient to steer you towards forbearance.
Forbearance, because that's a cash cow.
Capitalism in United States.
Well, you know what's really funny is that the dichotomy of, you know, us, especially, we do surgery, right? And so
I do surgery.
We do surgery. What's wrong with you?
I do surgery.
We do surgery. So I don't do surgery on patients. I don't perform surgeries on patients. Thank you. Says the man who's actually consulted me before on ovary stuff. So,
man, operating with your wife, oh my God. When you were touching the tissue, you were so rough with the tissue with the laparoscopic equipment. Remember, I was like, easy. I was like, chill, yo.
Yo, you're just a wuss. That's why.
You gotta teach you gotta treat small bowel with respect, yo.
I treat small bowel with respect. You're just a wuss.
Hey, okay. And the reason why is because you can call somebody else to come fix those issues. That's why you.
Well, you were there. So what's the problem?
Exactly.
Then you just a wuss.
As I always say.
But anyway, that's not the whole point of this discussion.
The reason why you guys are cocky like that is because someone can help you in that situation.
Anyway,
you are
that
the final
make
person.
No sense.
Yeah, okay.
That makes no sense, Nee. Anyway.
Christian,
let me hurt
Christian
this.
And Alfred is like, yo, what the hell is going on?
Let me hurt this. Anyway, that's not the whole point of this discussion. But the point that I was trying to make is the fact that, when you take a person to surgery, you should be counseling them on every option, right? And there's potentially a huge consequence when you don't do that, right? And so you feel like, man, if I don't counsel the patient on every single option, then I put my livelihood on the line, right? Whereas if you are a customer service representative of Navient, is your livelihood on the line if you don't counsel people? So what do you care, right? What do you care that you're going to cause a person, some sort of financial harm for potentially 20, 30, or the rest of their life, right? 20, 30 years or the rest of their lives. It just goes to show, the fact that in medicine, we are held to such a standard to be able to make sure that people's lives, mean something and that they can function is one thing, versus when people hurt other people financially, it's like, you got a little settlement. The person who counseled you actually doesn't even, doesn't have any sort of consequence. None of those customer service reps are, out there like, oh my gosh, my livelihood is on the line. They just go on to another job. And yeah, well, you got screwed financially and your family wasn't able to benefit. You weren't able to build wealth, but, so what? It just really irks me that we're held to this standard and no one else is held to a standard when they too can impact people's lives just as detrimentally, if not more.
Yeah, people sleep on the effect of student loans. It goes back to what I said. It's this notion of, well, look, if you want to become an engineer or if you want to become a teacher and you can't afford it, you got to get loans, and it's pay to play. That's right. It. Pay to play, baby. And that's how it works. And I think I agree with what you're saying. If you are customer service, I don't want to say this about everyone, right? I'm not trying to put aspersions on them, but it's what's the big deal? They get more interest, and the people, we as a public, I don't think we really kind of take into consideration what that money could be actually used for.
Exactly.
Right. So talking about this, let's talk about this. So I'm looking at I go to Navient.com every now and then just to kind of just say, yo, we don't owe y'all.
We zero balance.
And I always go back just to make sure. So I'm on Navient.com's website. I wish there was a way we could stream it into the camera or something.
Actually,
like that.
We can. We'll do a video shot and give it to Alfred.
So yeah, that's what we should do.
Yeah.
Actually, I wish we could just stream this live on Instagram.
We could one of these days, but not today because we already recording.
All right. You're right. So I'm looking at so we graduated in 2006, and I'm just gonna start going through stuff. Look at this. So in 2007, so we had a grace period, right? So we finished in May of 2006, and then we started residency July 2006.
Right, you get that 6-month grace period, was it?
So capitalized interest of $6,646. Another capitalized interest of $4,733. That was within the same month, actually. So that was $10,000 of capitalized interest in
1 month,
y'all. I'm telling you, this is just for me.
Right.
2 months later, capitalized interest of $1,300. A month after that, capitalized interest of $5,000. In the same month, capitalized interest of $11,000. So guys, and then that next month after that, that was literally $16,000 of capitalized interest in the month of October. Meanwhile, in the month of November, in the month of September. Oh wait, hold on, I'm reading the wrong one. Hold on. My bad, everyone. My bad. I was about to say, I was like, damn.
How much interest?
Sorry, guys. Yeah, so in July, our first year of residency, for me, $10,000 of capitalized interest. September, $1,300. November, $2,000. December, $938. January, $1,000. The same January, $205. Then July of 2008 now, right? So this is 2 years later.
Yeah.
Watch this, guys. July of 2008. This is probably when deferment is over now.
Right.
Watch this. $3,800 in July. $1,200. $1,600. $1,200.
All in July.
No. This is several
months.
over the next.
Okay,
over the months.
gotcha.
In the same month of 2008, 2009.
Same year.
$4,859.
Oh my God.
$475. $2,900. Now we're in 2010. Like, it just keeps going, guys. It just keeps scrolling. $1,300. So that's when I tell you guys.
And that's just interest.
Yeah. So this is what I'm telling you guys. When we say that we graduated with $240,000 of debt in 2006, by the time we got married in 2013, our loans had both ballooned to $330,000 each.
Yeah.
And primarily, we were getting these phone calls and we were telling folks that, hey, you know, on the phone, like, hey, like, we can't make, you know, significant payments. Yeah. At least I couldn't, you know. Like, what do we do? And they said, well, let's go into forbearance.
Yeah.
And it was painful, man. I didn't like that. But, you know, after a while, you start to feel, I was really upset. I was really mad because I was like, well, how did I lose $90,000 just like that?
Right.
You know, how did I accrue $90,000? Like, that's money that I could have used towards
anything else. Anything else but Navient's pocket. Right. So, yeah, I mean, it just, you know, there's always the argument as to whether or not you should pay off your student loan debt versus letting it sit and then, you know, I guess investing. And for me, and I think for you too, we always say it's just the pain of knowing that you're paying this interest and it's not going towards anything. Right. You know what I mean? And so I understand the argument of no, invest, because especially if your interest is lower than the normal return of the stock market. I get that. But the pain of knowing, you know, that at any point in time, you could have $2,000 worth of interest. You could have, you know, $5,000 worth of interest in any given month. It's just kind of like, dude, like, this is messing with my mind now. Like, I do not want to just keep Navient in business, especially when they don't have good business practices.
So we're going to get into that. So let's jump into that. But so we talked about one bad business practice, which is shifting struggling borrowers into going into forbearance. So NPR actually did like some type of exclusive, and they said that basically in the Income Driven Repayment Program that Navient and other servicers should be steering people into, that program has got issues itself. That program's got issues also.
Oh my God. You cannot win with these people.
No. So
they're going to make their money. They're going to make their money.
What they found out is that there's years of mistakes, years of mismanagement. And
they moved the decimal in the wrong place.
Yeah. So basically what's supposed to happen with income-driven repayment, like we discussed before, is it takes into account, you know, what your income is. It also takes into account your family size. And the whole key thing is after 20, maybe even 25 years, the debt is going to be forgiven after you're making these consistent payments. Right. So in some cases, some people, like I said to you before, will have $0 and that counts as a payment. That's huge.
Yeah.
What they found, going back as far back as 2016, is that some of these servicers, they weren't even keeping track of these payments.
Oh, my God.
No, for real, like $1 billion company or billions of dollar company didn't have like the internal system, the internal setup to be tracking these payments.
Right.
So nobody's tracking any of these income-driven repayment plans, these payments. Nobody's doing that. Literally, they found out that it's up to the borrowers to give a phone call and say, hey, you know, like I made like such and such payments for such and such years. Like, where am I at now? And they're like, they're going through their paperwork.
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. So it's crazy. Like, even the $0 payments, they weren't adequately tracked. You know, they found out that some people were placed into long forbearances, like really long forbearances, rather than say, hey, you can just have a $0 payment and that counts. Like, no, you go into forbearance and it's for a long period of time.
Right. And 3 months, so you're 6 accruing, all that
Some
interest.
of them were years.
Oh, my God.
And these things don't count. So what ends up happening is some of these folks who not only are struggling, they're just kind of stuck in this purgatory where they'll never get out of their student loan debt.
Yeah.
Even if they've had it for over 25 years.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense, right? We're talking about that's a quarter of a century.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're still not out of student loan debt.
Right. I mean, and feasibly, you're talking about people, for example, if you're just talking about your college debt, which we know now, like even college debt is starting to be up in the 200,000s, depending on what school you go to, you could feasibly be in your early 40s and owe this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just crazy because we're not talking about people who are, it's 25 years, you're just going to retire and who cares anyway because you're probably going to die with the debt anyway. No, we're talking about people in their early 40s.
And what's funny is, how in politics, how people talk about how polarized politics are and you can't get people from the left and people from the right to agree on things. Actually, this is getting bipartisan support. They're saying that this is a mess. This makes no sense.
Because nobody likes to part with their money no matter what side of the aisle you're on.
Yeah. So you got people on both sides of the aisle saying that this is a major problem.
Yeah.
The question, though, is are they going to be able to come together and come up with some long-standing changes?
Resolution, yeah.
They do have some remedies. I don't know how quickly this is going to come out, but they're saying for people who have been in forbearance for 12 months up to 36 months.
Oh, my God.
Think about that. For forbearance for 12 to 36 months. And
not the government issued forbearance here, people. We need to clarify that, right? Like there's the government issued forbearance, that they're calling it forbearance, which really it's more of a deferment, but whatever. But there's the government issued forbearance that, during the pandemic allowed people to not have to pay. So we're talking about forbearance when, they call you, like Dr. Nee said, when they call you and you say, I can't pay this. And they said, well, here's forbearance. And then they start charging just interest.
Right.
Yeah.
And then those aren't even counting. And a lot of
they're
times,
not counting towards your payment.
I think a lot of times people don't even know what's the difference between forbearance and this type of plan. Mm-hmm. They just know, hey, what can I do to get these people off my back?
Right.
And that's the part that's the most painful.
Yeah.
Right. So, if we go back and we look at what they're saying, right? So for those people who have been in forbearance for 12 months to 36 months, that time is going to count towards loan forgiveness.
Okay.
And they say immediately that affects 3.5 million borrowers.
Oh, good.
Right.
Hopefully that helps to wipe out some people's debts.
Right.
Depending, I don't know how much they're going to count in terms of loan forgiveness because I know that there's up to a certain amount, right, that they're going to forgive. So it's not going to be, oh, well, you got $200,000 and therefore they're going to wipe the whole thing out is my assumption. They'll probably pick, some sort of cap and then, forgive that amount.
And then
that would be good.
One of the last things that they're going to do also is the Department of Education. They are going to start tracking payments now. Instead of just letting the servicers take care of that. So,
hi, we're the government and we're here to help.
Yeah. Never trust
Somebody
that, right?
said that those are like the scariest words.
I think they said Ronald Reagan said that.
Yeah.
I don't really use much from Ronald Reagan. So the one that I use the most, though, is trust but verify. Right? I always have people, when I'm in the hospital, they'll say something. I'm like, I'll just...
I'll trust you, but I'm going to verify.
But it comes to, hey, guys, if you're not in medicine, you're listening to this show, shout out to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But basically, this boils down to that, trust but verify. Like, you cannot trust anybody except yourself when it comes to these loans, right?
Yep.
Because it's obvious that loans for people who are in the medical professions, that's probably not going to get forgiven at all. We're probably going to be the last. We're probably going to get forgotten.
Yeah.
And as a result, it's up to you. You're the final person who has to go up to these servicers. The responsibility is on yourself to call them and say, hey, look, I made such and such payment. Are you keeping track?
That's the lesson here.
Right. Because, that's the only way this is going to work out. Because for me, what frustrates me is, like I said to you before, like that $90,000, like, for me to expect to not have accrued any interest, I think is unrealistic.
Right.
But I also think $90,000 in the span of 5 years is excessive. And that's money that I could have used to put back into the economy.
Right.
We could have got a house with that. We could have paid off significant amounts of debt with that.
Right.
We could have used that for a whole host of different things that would have, obviously went to help our family tree.
Right.
But also in general, it gets put back into the economy. So is that really helpful the way how it goes? So for me, it's for the med students who are listening, For other people who are in other professional programs, yo, it's up to you to focus because as you can see, I'm sure a lot of you are always like, man, I don't know if they really are tracking
Right.
how many payments I'm making.
Right.
Are they
You're like,
really,
I hope this is working out.
if I make a payment, is it really going towards interest or is it is it really going towards my principal, or is it going towards interest?
Right.
There was a couple of times, remember when we called,
Yes.
we would make a payment,
Yep.
right? We would make a payment, an extra payment above the principal and above the interest for that month.
Yeah.
And they would take whatever was additional past that point and put it towards next month's payment.
Instead of the principal.
Right. So, for example, let's say, guys, you owed $500, right? And let's just say $350 of that went towards principal. The other $150 went towards interest.
I'm so proud of you. You did that math so fast.
Come on, y'all. Expectations for you, y'all. You ain't got no expectations on me whatsoever, do you?
I'm saying, I was thinking that you were going to go like the round number, like 0, like 300.
Yeah, so let's say like you made a payment of $375, right? No. So $350 goes to principal, $150 goes towards interest. Well, if you submitted, let's say $700, right? That additional money, right, which would be what, 200? Did I say 750 or 700? I'm showing my colors. That additional $250, whatever. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That additional money, right, is going to go towards next year's or next month's payment, which would be a certain ratio towards principal and a ratio towards interest. And you're like, no. If I sent this whole payment to you in October, take care of October's issues. Take care of the principal, take care of the interest, and everything else that comes in this check, put towards principal.
Right.
And you have to call them and let them know this.
Yes.
And I used to think, I was like, that's a little excessive. They should know that. That's intuitive.
Yeah, no.
Oh, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was wrong. So.
Yeah. And it's not to their benefit, right? Because if you keep lowering the principal, that's less interest that they're going to make each month, which is, I mean, it makes sense. If you're the company and you want to make more money, then you're going to do, practices that most people would not necessarily consider ethical.
Right.
But you're going to do these practices that make more money for you and not benefit your customer.
Right.
Even though your customer is trying to do something that will essentially help them to get out of this debt. So, I think that's the biggest lesson here is trust, but verify. Make sure that that money is going towards where you want it to go.
Yeah. So listen, I'm getting ready to go to locums, and I'm going to be very honest with you. Locums is what we did to really dig ourselves out of debt. There was one point in our lives where we were working both employed at a hospital.
Yeah.
I would work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Those 2 weeks I would be in the hospital 24 hours. I would handle all traumas and all general surgery emergencies, as well as critical care for 24 hours. Then for the next 24 hours, I was off or backup. Sometimes if an appy came in at 4 or 5 in the morning, I would just do that at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock the next morning, and then I'd go home and sleep. But during that time, when I'm off, I'm not really off. If someone if my partner who's in the hospital for 24 hours said, hey, I need you to come back in, I got to come back in. We would rinse, wash, and repeat and do that for 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks I'd be off. And the reason they did that was it was a very rural part of Pennsylvania. It was really hard to recruit. So they figured, well, if we did this schedule, it'd be easy for people to come in, work hard, and then get in and get out. It attracted us.
Right.
I raised my hand. It attracted us. But early in my career, those 2 weeks, I was really sensitive to the point. I was like, well, for 2 weeks, I'm not going to be doing anything. I need to do something else.
Yeah.
And we got a bunch of student loan debt. Let me do locums.
Yeah.
Right. So there were significant times where I would do those 2 weeks and then I give myself a day.
And then off to locums.
Pack in my bag.
Locum land.
Fly off and be away, for about a week, maybe definitely a week.
Yeah, definitely a week. Sometimes even the whole 2 weeks.
Yes, definitely a week. On average, a week and a half.
Right.
Come back, give myself at least 24 hours, and then hit that employed schedule again. But the way how we rolled is we lived off of Renee's part-time salary, and then we used my entire salary as working with the hospital for loans. And then everything that I made off of locums, we put additionally towards our student loan debt.
Yeah.
So we used my entire salary as well as 1099 income towards both of our debts.
Yeah, because I was doing locums as well. I would do locums once, maybe twice a month. because I was working part-time as, as an employee, as an employed physician, but then, I would have like maybe 5 days off at a time. So I'd use that weekend to be able to do locums.
You ever go back into your letters from the locums companies and they show how much you got paid?
Yeah.
How much you're getting paid per hour compared to what you're doing now? And I'm like, damn, they was making money off of us, man.
Yeah.
You had no clue and stuff. So
well, that's why there's Locum Story now.
Shout out to Locum Story.
Shout out to Locum Story. You can go to Locum Story and, really start to see what the rates are, right? What compare the rates of locum assignments in your specialty. And we're partnering with Locum Story actually now to see, what we can do to help people realize what it actually takes to be able to get to the point that you take on a locums assignment. And so what I love about Locum Story is that you can go onto their website and you can figure out whether or not a locum assignment is for you.
Well, I got to give a shout out to locums because that introduced me to podcasting. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily introduced me to podcasting, but introduced me to the concept of people doing other things outside of just medicine.
Yeah.
So when I was going, to different places, I would just meet people who just had these very interesting lifestyles. Mm-hmm. So, that's when I decided, I'd like to record these people and create a podcast around that. And that was kind of the early beginnings of Docs Outside the Box. And if you go to Locum Story also, you'll see that there's just different stories from physician assistants, nurse practitioners, and doctors who are just talking about all the interesting and various reasons why they do locums.
Yeah.
So most are doing it obviously for just additional income. But there are people who have some really fascinating stories.
Yeah. Great for varying lifestyles, which is really great.
Absolutely. So listen, guys, make sure you check out locumstory.com. It's in our show notes. Click on the link so you can learn more about them. They got unbiased information. I like it. I wish it was there when I was looking for locums back in 2012. Shout out to them. But we use locums to pay off this debt. So it could be done. But there were points where for, I'd say, close to 8 months. Mm-hmm. Close to 8 months. Yeah. Half of the month I was gone.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was also the time we were doing IVF.
Yeah,
also.
we were doing IVF. And I started thinking, maybe we need IVF because you ain't home.
Yeah, those are some interesting things. I'm glad that we could laugh about it now. But
I know.
Those are some stressful times. And the reason we bring this up is like I truly believe that there's so many different ways that you can respond to things, right? You can respond by putting your head in the sand and just saying, well, I'm going to follow the plan that they give me and I'll pay off my student loan debt in 20 to 25 years. The other plan is you can get into some type of income repayment plan, or you could be really aggressive. And we chose to be really aggressive because it just harkens back to what I was saying about that tweet from that medical student who said that, as she's getting closer to graduating from med school, she's really starting to realize the consequences of her decision financially.
Right.
And I think for us, at least for me, that happened. And I just realized, like, wait, I'm broke.
What did I just do?
I did all of this educating and I'm broke and I don't know how to handle my money. And, you shouldn't be getting into medicine to not get in for money. But I don't believe that nobody goes into medicine because they think they're not going to get paid anything.
Of course.
So I don't believe that.
Right.
But also at the same time, I think for a lot of people, particularly people who are first generation, it's that shock of just like, yo,
I done made it, but I'm broke.
Or the student loan debt is probably multiples of what my salary is going to be.
Yeah.
What kind of lifestyle am I going to have? A lot of people who are first generation are also sandwich kids, also, where not only do they have to take care of their own loans, they probably have parents who they have to watch out for. And then if they have kids, then they have kids that they have to watch out for.
Exactly.
So that's where that whole notion of being a sandwich type generation comes from.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that to say, oh, woe is me, but it's there to say, I understand what people are going through with this. And we have the salary to pay, this debt off. But the question is like, why the hell is freaking student loans, or why is tuition so much more now than it was 10 years ago or even 20 years ago? It's not like like Marvel and DC Comics, like that's not real, guys. You know what I'm saying? Like the body hasn't like mutated and stuff.
Right.
The body is the same as it was in 1900 as it is in 1950.
Yeah.
This ain't no comic book. So why does it cost more to educate me on this?
Yeah.
On it, like, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And that's the part that frustrates me most about it, is that I think, to some extent, I would love to talk to a dean of a medical school. I would love to talk to
a president, a board, actually.
Whoever's in charge of making what the tuition is going to be for upcoming years. I would love to have you come on the show and kind of explain the decision process that you use to increase tuition, because I wonder if they take into if they think about what that number actually does to their students.
Right.
Not in the immediate period,
right,
but what it does to them when they graduate from medical school, and what kind of decisions they make that are related primarily to finances.
Oh, absolutely.
Or when we say, okay, well, a significant amount of people who are going into medical school, they're not going into primary care mainly because they want to make money.
Right.
So that they can pay off debt, or they can, get to a certain point.
Well, I would also think that impacts the amount of donations. Right, the amount of donations.
Now you got them peeking up.
Like,
up.
Wait, what she said?
What medical leaders need to know about what doctors really think, huh? Y'all want donations? Y'all could have mad donations if you stop increasing your tuition.
Listen, Navient got your donation, okay? Navient has your donation.
Alfred, make a timestamp out of that. So medical schools, if you want to know how to increase your donations, keep your tuition low. Stop making us take so much in student loan debt, and then we would have enough money, enough disposable income to donate to the medical school.
That's right.
Boom.
You got it. Give us those donations. Yeah, okay, I'll give
Alfred,
it to you.
hook it up.
As soon as I pay off these student loans. And that, I think that's something that, they need to think about as well. But the question is, do you get your money now, or do you get a promise, potentially, maybe, of your money after the student graduates, because the donation is not guaranteed.
Just think about
obviously.
this, though. $500 at the end of all of this.
Well, listen, you got $500.
$90,000.
You got $500 of your $90,000.
But actually, guys, it's not just $90,000 of interest. Don't forget, interest was accruing while we were still paying off our debt.
Right.
So it's 90.
More.
It's 90 plus.
Right.
Right. I want people to really understand this whole concept.
Yeah.
That $90,000 accrued
after we
from
graduated.
2006 to 2011, even 2012.
Yeah.
While we're still paying off debt, it's still. But, I mean, that's why they say compounding interest is an amazing thing.
Yeah,
it's a hell of a drug. You know what I'm saying? It's like Rick James.
It's the seventh wonder of the world.
It's like Rick James said. You know what I'm saying? Compounding interest is a heck of a drug. You know what I'm saying? So the way how it works is it's crazy, which is why I think it's very important for people who you work so hard.
Yeah,
like don't put your money into your bed. Because
right,
don't put it in a bank. Don't just put it in a bank account, right?
Right.
Put that to work either on the stock market, VTI, put it on the stock market, or put it in some type of place where it's going to compound.
Yeah.
Where you're going to get some type of return on investment.
Some sort of return.
Because that's what these servicers are doing.
Yeah.
They know.
Absolutely.
They know how that interest works.
Exactly. So. You're their biggest investment.
Yeah. So my advice for people at the end of this, let's put a happy ending on this. I think for people who are considering going to whatever type of professional school that you go to, yes, there is a way that you could pay off your student loan debt. You just have to be very type A. You have to be very, what's the word I want to use? Savvy about it. There's scholarships. There are repayment plans that are out there that will help you be able to, decrease your student loan debt.
I mean,
I think refinancing. Make sure you're careful with refinancing. But it's possible. So, for example, the previous episode where MS wrote in asking, should I go to PA school if I'm going to accrue $275,000? Is the return on investment worth it?
Right.
Like, there's a point where you first have to consider not the numbers, but the career fulfillment of taking care of people in this fashion. Is that important?
Right.
Should you go through it blindly just based off of that?
Well, I don't think you should ever go through anything blindly, right?
No.
Like that's not going to work.
No.
I do think that is a consideration. Is this something that I really think that I will enjoy as a profession? Absolutely. You need to think about that, right? But I don't think that anyone should go through it blindly. I do think that you need to think about, well, how much is this going to cost me? is it worth it for me to go to specific, right? A very specific school? Because if I could get an education, get the same degree and have the same, job opportunities at a cheaper school, then maybe I will do that. And then you have to start thinking about, well, how much money do I really need to borrow, right? Like that's important.
Don't put maximum.
Right. Don't put maximum, right? When financial aid office asks you, how much money do you want to borrow? Don't do like Dr. Nee and be like maximum, right? Really do the math because they are doing math. So you need to fight math with math.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at it as, well, I'm going into this noble profession. I need to do anything I can to make sure I graduate. I don't want to I don't want to have to ask parents. I don't want to have to get a loan if I run out of money. So let me just do everything I can because I'm going to make the money on the other end. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I'm going to make the money on the other end. But you just don't think about how this stuff is calculating in the clouds.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's calculating in the clouds. So let me ask you a question. If you were because you decided you wanted to be a doctor, or you made the decision that I'm interested in becoming a doctor at the age of 3. But let's say, like, realistically, when you start really understanding money, let's say in your mid-20s, before because you started med school, in your late 20s, right? Yeah. So let's say you knew in your early 20s, by the time you finish medical school, you're going to have $500,000 of debt. Would you still do it?
I think I would have. And while I said
$500,000.
While I said I wanted to be a doctor when I was 3, by the time I was in my 20s, I literally had to have a real conversation with myself as to whether or not this was something that I wanted to do. At that time, I was thinking more about the time investment more than the money investment. Okay. Right? That's what I was thinking about. I was like, do I still really want to do this? Because I'm well into my 20s and, this is going to take a while. So I was thinking about that and just how that time was going to impact my life. So I decided, in my 20s, nope, I still want to go along with it. If I were in my 20s and had thought about and had learned about what it meant to be in 6-figure debt, then I would have had to have another discussion with myself, not whether or not I wanted to do it, but how I was going to do it. Yeah. Right? And your question is, well, if you knew you were going to have $500,000, my answer to that question is I would have probably tried to figure out how I would not have $500,000 worth of student loan debt. That's, I think, what I would have tried to figure out. If I can go through this and not have $500,000, but some much lower amount, and then start doing a little bit more math. But I wasn't educated, in that kind of stuff. So yeah.
For me, I wouldn't have cared. But I think the best way to describe it is I wish that I could go back and just say exactly what you just said, which is don't get discouraged by the amount of student loan debt that you're going to have, but why don't you consider applying for these scholarships? Why don't you consider maybe the military or maybe you have to take this route, right? Because actually our jobs offered us loan repayback, but it was really small. It was like $10,000, but we still took it. Yeah. It was actually $10,000. It was minus $10,000 after taxes and so forth. But I do think that there's ways that you can skin a cat. And I think that we as a profession, we need more people in this. And we're going to have to figure this issue out. And I think that medical leaders, what they need to know, like I said in the previous episode, is that, yes, education or educating competent physicians is very important, but you are literally sending them off, defenseless into a world where you're not teaching them anything about corporatized medicine. You're not teaching them anything about, how to handle their finances. Right. It's like the same thing with, athletes who leave and go from college and go into whatever sport it may be.
And then millions of dollars later, they're broke.
Yeah, Major League Baseball or what have you. Like it's really incumbent on, either the college or whatever league that's there to make sure that these athletes are educated. And I think that's the same thing in medical school. There's some medical schools, there's very few and far between that do some type of educating. Right. So I'm just raising my hand. Any medical leader that's listening right now, I'm open to coming and talking to students about X, Y, and Z, particularly with personal finance. But we're gonna need more than that. Yeah. And I think that that could be an existential crisis. I think that's actually a crisis right now. So absolutely, that's my opinion on that. So if you guys agree with what we got to say or disagree with what we got to say. There's an easy way for you guys to interact with us.
We want to know.
All you guys have to do is just text us. I don't even remember the numbers, like 833 something, something, something.
It's in the show notes. Text us in the show notes. But there is another way that they can tell us what they think about the show, what they want to hear, and that's through the survey that we have going on with INCROWD. The INCROWD survey right now that we have going on is essentially we want to hear your opinion about Docs Outside the Box, why you listen, what you want to hear from us, and what direction you'd like the show to go. And so if you do that quick, fast survey, we definitely appreciate that. But at the end of that survey, you have the option of signing up for INCROWD. More INCROWD surveys
where
that
you can
will
make some extra money to put towards your student loans. You know what I'm saying? We talking about figuring out different ways to skin a cat.
Right. So if you sign up for more INCROWD surveys, you can actually share your medical opinion for some cash. And it also helps the show when you sign up for INCROWD. It also gives us a little something.
You get something, we get something, if you know what I mean, right? So let's make it work, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
So sign up today. We really do want to hear from you guys. Seriously. Just if you could fill out that survey and let us know, it will help us to make the show a little bit better, tailor it to whatever it is that our audience is really in tune to. I know that there are a lot of topics that we cover, but there are some that interest you a little bit more than others. So we want to know what that is.
That's right. And
so,
real quick,
INCROWD.
Hopefully people are still listening. Real quick, let's do a Batman review. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Batman, the Batman.
The Batman movie.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Here's my review right now. Thumbs down. Man, that movie sucks, yo. Real quick. Yo, they should have just made this a TV show. I'll leave it at that. Let's move on.
Yeah.
What you guys say?
That's all I have to say.
All right, y'all. We'll catch you guys on the next episode of Docs Outside the Box. I'm Dr. Nee.
Dr. Renee.
Yo, we love hanging out, talking about all these different things, infusing money, medicine, as well as pop culture.
And
pop culture. We'll catch y'all on the next one, y'all.
Peace.